How did a fake army win D-Day? Picture this, June 6, 1944. While thousands of Allied soldiers stormed the beaches of Normandy, Adolf Hitler sits 800 miles away, convinced it's all a trick. He refuses to send reinforcements. Why? Because he's waiting for the real invasion to hit Calais, an invasion that will never come. An invasion created by the greatest military deception in history. A phantom army that never fired a single shot, yet helped win World War II's most critical battle, the impossible problem. By 1943, the Allies faced a terrifying reality. They needed to invade Nazi-occupied Europe, but Hitler was waiting with 50 divisions along the French coast. If he concentrated them at the real invasion point, Allied forces would be slaughtered on the beaches. The solution? Operation Fortitude, the most elaborate con job in military history, a deception so sophisticated it would convince Hitler to look the wrong way. At history's most critical moment, building an army from thin air. The plan? Convince Hitler that the invasion would strike Pas-de-Calais, 150 miles northeast of the real target at Normandy. To sell this lie, the Allies created an entire phantom army group called FUSAG, the First United States Army Group, and they put America's most famous general in command, George S. Patton. The Germans feared and respected Patton above all Allied commanders. Where Patton went, the main invasion would follow. So the Allies made sure German intelligence knew exactly where he was, southeast England, directly across from Calais.
The Invisible Army. Here's where it gets brilliant. You might expect fields full of inflatable tanks and fake aircraft, but Operation Fortitude was far more sophisticated. The Germans couldn't fly reconnaissance over Britain. The RAF controlled the skies, so visual deceptions were pointless. Instead, Fortitude fought on an invisible battlefield, radio waves. Hundreds of radio operators broadcast thousands of fake messages daily, creating entire fictional command captures. They transmitted mundane military chatter about supply problems, training exercises, and troop movements. German signals intelligence intercepted these transmissions and reported massive Allied forces in southeast England. The Phantom Army talked, complained about logistics, requested supplies, conducted training, everything a real army preparing for invasion would do, except it didn't exist. The spies who came in from nowhere. But Operation Fortitude had an even more powerful weapon, double agents. British intelligence had achieved something unprecedented. They had captured virtually every German spy in Britain and turned them to work for the Allies. The Germans had no idea their entire intelligence network was compromised. This network, codenamed the Double Cross System, became devastatingly effective. These agents sent detailed reports to Berlin about FUSAG's buildup, troop movements, division counts, Patton sightings. The Germans received confirmation from multiple independent sources, never knowing British intelligence controlled them all. The man who fooled Hitler. One agent stood above all others, Juan Puyol Garcia, codenamed Garbo. Garbo was a Spanish businessman who hated fascism so much that he volunteered to spy for the British. The British initially rejected him, so he went to the Germans and convinced them he was a fanatical Nazi supporter who could spy on Britain for them. Once he'd established his credibility with German intelligence, he approached the British again, this time with proof he'd already penetrated German intelligence.
From a small room in London, Garbo created an entirely fictional network of 27 sub-agents reporting from across Britain. None of them existed. Every report was fabricated. Yet German intelligence trusted him completely. In the weeks before D-Day, Garbo sent message after message about FUSAG's preparations to strike Calais. His reports were so detailed, so convincing, that Hitler personally awarded him the Iron Cross in July 1944. The British also awarded him the Member of the Order of the British Empire. Garbo remains one of the only people in history to receive military honors from both sides of the same war. D-Day, the con continues. On June 6, 1944, Allied forces hit Normandy's beaches. The fighting was brutal, but the Germans had been caught with divided forces. And here's where Operation Fortitude proved its genius. The deception didn't end on D-Day. Hours after the landings began, Garbo sent an urgent message. Normandy was a diversion. The real invasion, Patton's FUSAG, was still preparing to strike Calais. Hitler bought it completely. He personally ordered reinforcements held back from Normandy to defend against the real invasion. An entire panzer division that could have devastated the Allied beachhead remained near Calais, waiting for Patton's Phantom Army. For 7 critical weeks, German forces remained divided, convinced the main attack was still coming. By the time they realized the truth, the Allies had established an unbreakable foothold in France. The real Ghost Army. Now, there actually was a unit called the Ghost Army, the 23rd Headquarters Special Troops, famous for inflatable tanks and Hollywood deception techniques. But they arrived in Europe in May 1944 and operated primarily after D-Day, conducting tactical battlefield deceptions across France and Germany. These 1,100 soldiers, including future fashion designer Bill Blass, impersonated entire divisions using inflatable equipment and sound trucks. But the strategic deception that won D-Day? That was Operation Fortitude, fought with radio waves and double agents.
The victory nobody could see. Operation Fortitude shortened the war by months and prevented hundreds of thousands of casualties. Those 7 weeks of German confusion, of panzers waiting at the wrong beaches, of reinforcements held for an invasion that would never come, gave the Allies the breathing room they needed to establish their beachhead and liberate Europe. The Phantom Army was worth more than entire divisions of real soldiers, yet for decades, the story remained classified. Double agents took their secrets to the grave. Radio operators couldn't tell their families what they'd done. Some didn't learn the full scope until the 1970s, when the operation was finally declassified. The greatest trick ever pulled. So how did a fake army win D-Day? By understanding that modern warfare isn't just about firepower, it's about information, psychology, and belief. Operation Fortitude proved that you could defeat an enemy without firing a shot, that phantom divisions could be more powerful than real ones, and that the right lie, told convincingly enough, could change the course of history. On the beaches of Normandy, real soldiers fought and died for every inch of sand, but their success was made possible by a phantom army that never existed, commanded by double agents who never broke cover, fighting on a battlefield the enemy couldn't see. The greatest trick the Allies ever pulled was convincing Hitler that his greatest threat was coming from Calais, when the real invasion was heading somewhere else entirely. FUSAG won not because it was real, but because the Germans believed it was real. And in war, belief can be more powerful than reality itself. Think about that the next time you hear about D-Day. While we remember the soldiers who stormed those beaches, spare a thought for the radio operators who never left England, the double agents who played both sides, and the phantom army that existed only in the imagination of the enemy. They fought the most important battle of World War II, and the enemy never even knew they were there. Sometimes the most powerful weapon isn't what your enemy can see, it's what they think they see.